or sword fight. Yeah, that would be your... Well, that depends on the time period you're examining. At some point, it wasn't conducive to modern society, well, to civilian society, to just have fights randomly break out, so they were heavily disincentivized by the government. And duels were effectively outlawed. But then again, you had people struck down with swords well into, I'm gonna say, the 70s. So did people really use those cartoon gun duels? Wait, what? What do you mean cartoon gun duels? Where they take steps and turn around and shoot? Yeah, they did do that. That was how you dueled with flintlock pistols. So, very commonplace, I'm gonna say, in the 1700s? What if you just shot him while he was walking away? No, Dia, you couldn't do that because there were two people present as witnesses to the duel, because a duel was... Well, it was a legally sanctioned matter to mediate issues of honor. No, well, yeah, that, and, like, if you do shit like that, you're definitely going to be prosecuted for just dead-ass murder. It's not only an issue of prestige. Yeah, that's why it was the legal way of killing someone, yes. What if you shoot the witnesses too? Keep in mind, Dia, that you were using a flintlock pistol. That means there's one shot that is being loaded into the barrel. It shoots once, and then you need to reload it. And before you ask, having multiples of those on you would have been kind of a red flag. I mean, technically, there's a legal way to kill someone even today. There is such a thing as justifiable homicide. I mean, define cartoony, Dia. The older ones, the flintlock pistols, yes, they do take a while to reload. That's black powder guns. Yes, break-ins are an example of a justifiable... Use of deadly force in the event of a break-in is an example of a justifiable homicide. Yes, you're correct. Like, they put the powder in, they put a stick down. Yes. Well, it's not just like in the cartoons. The cartoons were depicting an actual thing that happened, Dia. Like, that was an actual means of using black powder weaponry. Well, black powder firearms. The Japanese Warring States period was mostly won with black powder weaponry. One of the big reasons for Oda Nobunaga's conquest being so successful is because he didn't shy away from using Portuguese black powder rifles. Okay, yes you can, but why would you? Although, not necessarily. Technically, warning shots are illegal because where are you shooting the warning shot? In the air? It's illegal to shoot in the air. That's reckless discharge of a firearm. Well, warning shots alert the person to the fact that you are armed. What they do with that information is not always guaranteed. Some see that as a cue to shoot in the direction of the warning shot. So, I maintain that in a use of force scenario, you shoot center mass to stop. And always make sure to use expanding ammunition to prevent overpenetration.
When they kick in your bedroom door and you put a load of buckshot in their chest, that will psychologically intimidate them and they shouldn't be breaking into your house. I am not and do not advocate that you shoot people. Then you're going to acquire a lawyer. I also am not and do not advocate that you die in your own home and be butchered by a bunch of savages.
Hiding is an interesting strategy, Dia. Problem is... Oh, don't bully him, NSK. He's just young. That's okay. So the issue with hiding, Dia, well, you have two issues. First of all, whoever is in your house may go looking for you. That's one option, and there's so much time that you can spend playing hide and seek. Second of all, you may have, well, later in life, you may have dependents in your house, such as your spouse, or your children, or even your pets. Yes, hiding is not a safe choice. That is correct. Not to mention that, again, you may also have dependents in the house that you also need to secure. That being said, something like a well-secured panic room is actually a very good choice. Like, if you go out of your way to equip a properly built panic room that can't be easily penetrated by the time the police gets there, that is your optimal choice. Getting into a gunfight with some fuckhead that decided to break into your house at night, no, the bathroom is a bad panic room. Of course panic rooms are real. Like, what about the concept of a panic room isn't real? No, I was explaining that to... You saw a movie about it. Was it The Purge? Actually, you know what? The Purge did have a very good panic room. Now that I think about it, it was a very good example of a well-built home defense. It's something that I aspire to own. No, not necessarily in SK. Panic rooms are usually in use by high-net-worth individuals. Of the house... No, you see, the issue with the house in The Purge was that there were poorly trained liabilities inside the house in the form of the children of the family. So the perimeter itself was very sound, but you had interloper kids who took down the security perimeter. I very specifically remember that moment because, well, for story reasons it needed to happen. You think letting the homeless guy in was a bad idea? Well, it sort of resulted in the head of the family dying, so yeah, I'm gonna say it was a bad fucking idea. The issue is, you see, the dad did die, exactly. So they had to get into a firefight and a hostage situation in the... Sure, but that's what's called cost-benefit analysis. Like, you weigh the risks of exposing yourself in an activity against the benefits that you can gain from endeavoring in it. The benefits from opening the system up were none. The risk was getting killed. If he had done his cost-benefit analysis correctly, he wouldn't have opened the gate. Yes, exactly. That's your priorities. I'm fully exposed to... Like, it doesn't require too much suspense of disbelief to see a young kid who, out of compassion, does something stupid. So, as much as that plot point specifically irks me, it's still very much believable. Like, I can see that being a possibility. Although, it does also make a good cue for assessing parenting in that situation. Like, if you're in that environment and that's a reality of daily life, you don't just set up your security systems, you also train your family onto how to act in that scenario. And you sure as fuck don't have a static code that your kid can see through the doorway. Or at least don't have it on a pad that's so easily observable from a third point of view. And then, yes, you also train your kids that this is the equipment, this is how it's used, and this is how you never use it. It's essentially the same approach that you do when you're introducing a child to a firearm that exists in your place of residence. Hiding it and denying exposure to it and denying interaction is how you create mystique around the thing and therefore encourage exploration when you're not around, as opposed to the healthy approach of educating. This has been my TED Talk for today. Yes. Well, most firearm accidents that happen with children are a product of parents not understanding how to parent around a firearm. Like, they don't understand. Usually it comes from a place of insufficient training of the parent. They're not confident with the weapon, therefore they're not confident in providing training to the child. But if you train, demystify, and explain, it becomes mundane and uninteresting, and then the child desists from trying to interact with it. So yeah, I'd be fully exposed to building a panic room. It doesn't have to be a dedicated room. At that point, you're just wasting some room that may be otherwise useful. But for example, having your workshop double as a panic room, that makes sense. Like, all you realistically need to do, well, depending on the level of threat that you seek to deter, is reinforce the entrance so that it can't be broken down easily. Center your surveillance system around that space. Oh, I need 2 pieces of silicone rubber, goddammit. And make sure it's only accessible to a select, well, to the members of your inner circle, essentially. Because that would also likely be the place where you store your firearms and other deterrents. And then when you're safely locked in, you just deploy the Tannerite Roomba. think you'd better to shoot someone in the leg. No, 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 Dia. That is a worse option on very many levels.
You shoot him in the leg.
Let me explain to you why. First of all, hitting someone in the leg doesn't produce a stopping effect. No, no, no. So, Dia, let me break this process down for you because there are multiple steps to this one. First of all, you never shoot to kill. You shoot to stop, because killing people is illegal. But if they die in the process of being stopped while they're trying to harm you, that's justifiable homicide and skill issue. You seek to stop whoever is trying to harm you, and you need to do that in the most efficient way. The most efficient way, as shown by a plethora of data, is shooting them center mass. No, that doesn't... No. No. So... yes, only in movies. First of all, shooting someone in the leg does not produce rapid enough blood loss so that they are no longer a threat to you. No, still no. Like, again, not enough blood loss. If you want to stop someone instantly, you need to destroy the heart. There's a reason why targets are usually designed around that concept. In a self-defense shooting, your objective is to draw your firearm as soon as possible and then place 3 jacketed hollow point shots in the area around the heart to make sure that you thoroughly destroyed it. That's the issue, Dia. If someone is approaching to hurt you, they typically will not stop until you hurt them bad enough. And you need to hurt them bad enough so that they cannot persist, as opposed to they decide to no longer persist, because it's a toss-up on whether or not they decide to do that at any point. Also, hitting a leg is harder than hitting something center mass because legs have less surface area, they're mobile, and it's generally difficult to aim not at center mass of something. There's a case to be made at shooting at the pelvis. That's arguably a more cruel way to do that. Well, that's, again, skill issue, Dia. A lot of people have what's called negligent discharges that result in grave harm. They don't die quickly, but they become severely injured, or they shoot their nuts off. And that is usually a product of insufficient discipline and training. Like, if you are going to be in the vicinity of a firearm, you need to be trained with it. You need to go to the range. You need to do what's called dry firing, when you clear a weapon of any live ammunition and you practice positive grip, draw stroke, sight acquisition, trigger pull. And those are movement cycles that you need to practice and you need to be good with before you put a firearm behind your belt and start carrying it. But Dia, to your point of shooting someone in the legs being more humane, Rangers and Scouts and Snipers have a best practice that's designed around shot placement around the pelvis, well, in the pelvic area, as opposed to center mass. Mostly, that particular tactic is popular among snipers, especially if they're running diversionary groups or light recon. There's no humane way in shooting. That is correct, NSK, but there are also cruel and unusual ways of shooting, and that one takes the cake. Because when you shoot someone in the pelvis, that's very ugly placement, I don't like it. Okay, I guess we're done with the hull. Because when you shoot the pelvis, there are big blood vessels there. They're significant enough, and you're also shattering the pelvic bone, so you're definitely removing your subject's ability to walk, while at the same time, you give him an incentive to scream very loudly, and by doing that, he does constant morale damage to his squad. And if they're not disciplined enough, someone is going to leave cover in a vain attempt to retrieve him. The attempt is vain because, with the femoral artery being hit, or another large blood vessel in the pelvis being hit, there are virtually no odds of him surviving anyway. So, in an attempt to retrieve your fallen comrade, you're only presenting new targets to the sniper that shot him. as opposed to actually contributing something positive in recovering him.